Welcome to SAGAS, the channel where we science the shit out of your favorite anime, games, and all sorts of other stuff. I'm your host Iker, and today we are proud to bring you another Dragon Ball Legends video. Today we'll be ending the debate about two popular questions. How good is a particular sparking, and how strong are some of these extremes? But before we do that, brace yourself, because here comes the drop. Normally, a tier list attempts to give us a picture of relative card strength between all cards of a single rarity, in this case sparking. They do this by placing them within tiers instead of ranking them, so we can acknowledge the degree to which team makeup, player preference, and skill can make a unit better or worse. What's really being said isn't that any single unit within Z tier is better than another within Z, but that the units in Z are generally better than everyone else below them. In order to do this, most lists will simplify things and limit themselves to a single rarity, but when we were comparing unit stats, popularly used characters, and after discussing this with some of the best players in the world, big shout out to my Discord crew for all their help, and a special shout out to Vlad who put in the extra work that is the foundation of what we're really about to do here. But after all of this, it became apparent that extreme cards have not only emerged as a force, but many have always been more powerful than some of their sparking counterparts. This is why we decided to take on the challenge of presenting to you the first tier list that integrates extreme characters with sparking rarities, with the express purpose of declaring to the world that these units are not to be trifled with. First, let's talk about the criteria for judging. First and foremost, we want to win neutral matchups, and for a moment we need to put on hold everyone's favorite game of, hey, Unit X sucks because Unit Y, who has color advantage, can beat him, because that's silly and not helpful at the moment. Two, we got to talk about team synergy. Here we look at the meta teams and see how these units fit in and what they bring or take from the table. And finally, we've got the general toolkit analysis. This attempts to capture the intangibles like unique abilities, main abilities, and other buffs that don't directly translate into game-long damage or defense buffs. Think of things like a crisis ability, things that only activate under very particular circumstances. Now, before you get triggered that your favorite character isn't where you want him or her to be, please understand that this was a collective work from many highly talented people. Their opinions differed on this and we didn't even agree. So at the end of the day, we tried our best to bring together the whole picture so we can help people build the best teams possible by helping them include extremes. With that said, here's the list on your screen now. Up top, we have Instant Transmission Goku, Bardock, and 17. They dwell in Z tier. Here's where we put the units that are some of the best in all three of aforementioned criteria, but also who utilize some game-changing mechanics that define what can or can't be done in the current meta. Think of Bardock's incredible ability to lock a unit from switching, an ability that not only makes double color teams viable, despite the increased availability of quality units in all colors, but who is the core reason that the best team in the game is what it is. More on that in the next video though, where we will be releasing our top teams of the current meta. S+ characters are where we put the premier beat sticks in the game like Perfect Cell and Super Vegeta. These are units who, when properly buffed by their team, are able to win virtually every neutral matchup in the game. The reason they aren't Z tier though is because they consume a lot more resources than they give to the team, but otherwise these units are essential pieces to any well-built team. Next we have S tier characters like Crillon, Super Trunks, and Super Saiyan Vegeta. They could easily be S+ if they had the support needed to take their specialties to the next level. While the S+ characters are surrounded with possible teams that lift them up, the S characters lack the support needed to be pushed to the next tier. But with the abilities and toolkits that these units possess, we are always just one banner away from that happening, so keep these guys in mind when you're summoning. Next we've got A tier units. Like the ones you see on your screen, they're a mixed bag. We have units like Broly, 18, and others who don't play well in the current meta teams, but whose strengths makes them second tier beat sticks that can win neutral matchups most of the time. Then we have units like Piccolo and Heart Virus Goku, whose unique toolkits make them essential pieces to the right teams. But what holds all these units back is that they require a large amount of resources and support from the rest of the team to be viable, and we just don't think that building a team around the second best beat sticks in the game is terribly wise, especially in light of characters that are in our S+ tiers. But let's pause here for a moment because in A tier something interesting is happening. We've got our first extreme characters appearing on this list. That's going to be EX Bardock. So let's take a moment and actually let me make the case for why EX Bardock is where he is, as well as give you insight into our process for placing them. When placing an EX, there's a couple of additional factors we like to consider. The first is availability, or is this unit's availability unusually high, as is the case with units that are rewarded from adventures or scout missions? If so, it wouldn't be fair to rate them at the same stars as everyone else, and this really needs to be considered. Next, let's go ahead and talk about how we do our comparables. We basically looked for a sparking unit who fills a similar role, and then compare them across our 3 criteria previously mentioned, as well as general stats to see how this EX stacks up, and whether bringing them in to replace that sparking unit would hurt, help, or not affect the team at all. In the case of Bardock, his availability is low for now, so we can't make him any higher in stars than the sparking we're comparing him to. However, and despite that, when comparing his stats to Red Super Saiyan Vegeta, we see some striking similarities across the board, with a few small trade-offs of survivability for damage output of course. But in terms of relative strength, you'd be hard-pressed to go wrong with bringing in Bardock to replace Super Saiyan Vegeta in most cases. With that said, Super Saiyan Vegeta is in S tier while Bardock dwells in the A tier, so we would be misleading you to say that they're the same relative strength, but the comparison is so close that he's absolutely worth having in A tier. Now let's move on to B tier. Here we have a majority of extreme units in the game who are at least at sparking level strength. B units can be understood as situational bench units with great Z abilities or in-game synergy that can be swapped in on meta teams for matchup specific situations like type advantage or element of surprise purposes. And now finally, we've got our C tier units. These are units who are considered niche units. Though their possibilities are limited, these units are excellent options for players who don't have the units above in this list and are worth keeping leveled up just in case. We had an interesting comparison here with Pan and Nappa that we felt was the perfect way to end this video and loudly declare that EX units are no joke, despite the fact that of course Pan is the butt of many jokes and we're comparing him to her, but yeah, I digress. Comparing Nappa, one of the oldest EX units in the game, to Sparking Pan, of similar age of course, we see that Nappa actually does a ridiculous amount more of damage than Pan does. He's sitting at almost 10,000 more base strike and has more in-game buffs to that strike than Pan does. All his other stats are actually comparable, other than the key regen of course, where Pan is actually second only to Zarbon at this point. Overall, Nappa's existence proves one single and important lesson: that we have likely been overlooking the importance of EX characters since the game launched. Well, that's going to do it for us today, folks, and I hope you guys enjoyed the video, because if you did, I'm going to ask you to go ahead and Missouri smash that subscribe button and give the video a colossal thumbs up. Don't forget to update your notification settings to be notified of all our videos as soon as they come out. And last but not least, make sure you guys take care of yourselves. Until the next time, take it easy.